The ANC's fundraising activities scheduled to coincide with the party's 111th anniversary celebration has been met with criticism from some quarters. A gala dinner will be hosted where one could pay 1.2 million rand to sit next to President Cyril Ramaphosa. A pricey round of golf is also on the cards. The ANC's new Secretary General, Fikile Mbalula, has defended the fundraising earlier, saying the party needs money to fund its political activities. For a discussion on this, we're joined by political analyst Xolani Dube. Xolani, good afternoon. Great to speak to you. Hefty sum, 1.2 million rand, if you want to sit next to President Cyril Ramaphosa, or rather the ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa at that dinner. Is that a fair sum?
Look, we have to understand that the ANC, since its conception, it has been moving around with its backing power, is an organization that survives on the benevolence of those people who control South Africa. And so such kind of desperation, even to sell the proximity to the president, is a clear indication that ANC really, when it comes to being captured or to sell its soul to the highest bidder, is no longer an issue anymore.
But Xolani, is it desperation? I think in economics there's something called opportunity cost. Now, this dinner has been oversubscribed, right? They were selling 300 seats. All 300 seats have been taken, not that they're all at 1.2 million rand, but they've all been taken and they're having to sell more seats. So one would suggest that it isn't desperation. It is a case where people want the proximity.
Look, you have to understand that ANC is in charge of our resources, and also economy is about ideology. And so in an economy, there is what we call it principle. Look what Brazil, President Lula did recently, when he was reversing all the so-called privatization that happened during when he was not in that office. And so I think once an organization starts to sell its soul, and that makes it kind of a leeway for the vultures to feast on the state's resources. And so we cannot simply say is the issue of the economy. And so if ANC can't manage itself financially, and so who's going to look after itself? And if ANC is going to sell itself to the highest bidder, ANC, you and I, we know that the only currency that they have is to be the native administrators. And so, in a way, indirect, they are selling or they are offering our resources to the highest bidder. And so it has nothing really to do with the economy at this time. It's about them not having the principle. It's about them selling the state assets so that them as an organization can benefit. Remember, Hugo, that we had what we call it a Chancellor House. And look where we are with the role of Chancellor House when it comes to the energy in our country. Those Chancellor House was part of some of the international companies who build these medupis and all this so-called energy power station or electric power station. Look where we are today. And it's such an embarrassing that ANC, after they pillaged so much out of that tender, today they don't have anything. They can't even afford to pay their staff. And so we need not really to take it light, because at the end of the day, the voters, those who are voting for the ANC, they have to ask themselves, who is really in control of the organization? Is the electorate, or are those who bought or who have bought the soul of the ANC? That is the most important thing. Also, it speaks about the policies. If ANC says its policies is weak and is poor orientated, you know it very well that a person who pays so much is not poor, but the person who pays so much is got something that is in need of.
Okay, before we come to that, let's focus a little bit on how political parties survive. They, from my understanding, survive largely on donations. I stand to be guarded, but I suppose that's the question for you to answer. Do political parties survive on donations, or do they have other mechanics of fundraising to sustain their various activities?
That's what I was arguing, that the issue of our economic system in relation to democracy and those who are in the administration of our resources is twisted, and is strangulated the voice of the poor, because this is a kind of a triangle, an evil triangle between the state and what we call it, some of the so-called comprador bourgeoisie and the political party. And so in that triangle, where do we fit as the ordinary people? Because at the end of the day, South Africa has got so much resources that we don't need, if you are in power, you don't need an organization, individuals who are going to put a leash around your neck. Today we talk about pala. Today we talk about the envelope that were concealed in the previous Nasrec. Today we talk about the issue of a guy in the presidency who has been splashing money around buying votes so that he can ascend to the highest office. Today we talk about the Guptas. Today we talk about white monopoly capital and minerals energy complex. And so, but those are the people who have captured the ANC. We as ordinary people, we have not captured the governing party. It means that we'll always be at the receiving end. And this capturing is the one that escalates what we call it corruption in our country. Hence, we end up having this endless commission like your Zondo Commission and other commission that really talk to the soul and the principle of this organization.
Xolani, what I haven't been able to capture from you is how are the other political parties surviving that aren't in office?
They are the same. They are the same. You go to the IFP. Look, remember Helen Ziller, you was staying at the house of the guy who owns the Capitec, And so in a capitalist system, that's the sad part in the capitalist system, that the people who rule the country are the capitalists, and as ordinary people, we end up being at the receiving ends, because the same political organization, that Fikile Mbalula, once he went to a holiday of 600,000 and he made a loan to a person who was wealthy. And we talk about Zizu Godwa in the State Capture Commission, who also survived on someone who is wealthy. And so, as well as Cyril, it's so embarrassing that at the end of the day, when it matters most, these people, they don't want to live like the people that they claim to represent the poor, but they want to live an aristocratic life. And so, even that dinner, it will be a space of the aristocracies of our country, of which is totally wrong.
All right, Xolani, let's take a look at some reaction that we've received from the public once the announcement went out. And here's a tweet that says, another example of how the ANC blurs party government lines as it brazenly advertises corruption, because that's what's happening here. People pay money to a political party to have direct access to their politicians in a powerful government positions, quid pro quo, and that's from Barry Bateman. I think there's another tweet that we're also going to look at. This one says, why don't at my NC host a national ESCOM day whereby engineers are called to solve the power issue? So I suppose that in many ways it justifies some of the things that you are saying. So my question to you is, if you are, Xolani, paying 350,000 Rand to play a round of golf with President Cyril Ramaphosa, or paying 1.2 million Rand to sit across from him at a dinner table, are you guaranteed opportunities? Do you go into that conversation, do you make that payment knowing fully well this is exactly what I want, and all you're doing is going onto that golf course or sitting at that dinner table to basically seal the deal?
Obviously, there must be a return of investment. You don't simply throw such a huge amount of money for nothing, And so that's why I'm saying these kind of events, I can say these are leash that they put around our political leaders, so that at the end of the day, they can be reminded that, look, I participated in that particular dinner, and these were the promises that were made. try to fulfill these promises, And so that's why at the end of the day, when you noticed that the money do not end up to the organization, but end up to the individual.
Okay, so now we know that the laws have changed. The Political Party Funding Act has introduced a strict regulatory framework where any donation above 100,000 rand, right, has got to be submitted. Now, is this an opportunity for the ANC to sort of circumvent that, in that if you are paying 350,000 rand to play golf with Cyril Ramaphosa, you are not making a donation. It's almost a purchase, almost a transaction of sorts. Is this a way of circumventing that?
Look, this is just a form of slavery. We have internalized slavery where we sell our people. They are selling Cyril there, to be quite honest, with that price of 300 and something. I thought that slavery is something that is in the past. But now, if I have a business, if I'm a businessman and then I fork out about 400 million and it's to buy Cyril for the night, And so I think, what is happening in our country, we need to have a serious conversation, because that's how we chisel this democracy. And then at the end of the day, you find policies no longer resonating with the people who are the electorate. And the policies end up benefiting the so-called the people who control this country. And so the issue of this golf and the issue of the dinner, really, it must be to the conscience of what you call it, of the ANC leaders, to say, is it still correct to do these things? Remember, this is an organization, once it is used to feast on a birthday cake in front of millions of its supporters. And that cake was only reserved for the elite, until people started to revolt against that. And then they said, okay, they will donate this. And so I think this conversation might lead to the ANC to say, look, we need to create other avenues, honorable avenues, to fundraise for themselves, rather than to go to individuals in dark corners who only there for their own interest. Because those people who fund ANC, they don't fund ANC for the well-being of the South African natives. They fund the ANC for their own selfish well-being. That's all.
Xolani Dube, appreciate your time this afternoon. We were having that discussion with political analyst Xolani Dube ahead of ANC's January 8 celebrations.